Warren Buffett is known as a sage of Omaha and is today worth over $100 billion. This is a graph of his track record over the last 3 decades. This guy really knows what he's doing when it comes to investing. But as a Muslim investor, it's actually really hard to follow his advice because not everything our boy Warren says is halal. For example, Muslims aren't allowed to deal in interest, which rules out bonds and many stocks. So in this video, we translate Buffett's advice for Muslims. What would Warren do if he was a Muslim? We also dig into the hidden investment category where 80% of Buffett's annual income comes from, but never seems to get any coverage. This is actually the secret of Warren's wealth, and I was really surprised when I looked into this. Warren, mate, if you're watching, our DMs are always open. Get your ghusl done and we'll sell you an investment like no other. I'm Ibrahim Khan. I've been studying economics and traditional Islamic sciences for over 13 years now. Alhamdulillah, I've been lucky enough over the years to be covered by various publications and have recently authored a book on halal investing. IFG started with me and my co-founder Mohsin alongside our legal careers in the city. And today IFG is, alhamdulillah, a team of 20 plus individuals, and we serve the community through IFG, our content arm, and Curate Capital, our investment arm. Buffett is a proponent of value investing. This is a long-term form of investing focused on picking the right company rather than just trading on the graph, for example. The idea behind this investment approach is really simple. Buy a profitable and growing business that is being undervalued by the market and then hold on to it for as long as it remains a high-quality business. Buy low, sell high, or preferably, in Warren's view, don't sell at all. Why would you ever sell a high-quality business that you've entered in at a really cheap price unless you absolutely have to? This does beg the question then, what is a high-quality business? Well, Warren looks at 4 key things. First, the business model must be understood and profitable. Warren avoided the dot-com crash because he avoided investing in much of the tech sector as it didn't make any sense to him. Second, the business needs to be defensible long-term with brand or technology. That's why Warren has bought and held Coca-Cola, Apple, American Express, and Kraft Heinz for years. Third, study the management. Warren really looks at the leaders and the companies who look after their shareholders and are fundamentally good, ethical people. Fourth, Warren looks for a specific type of financial profile. He likes investing in growing and profitable businesses that are paying dividends. And to figure out if the company is cheaper, he likes to work out the economic value add. Look complicated? Don't worry. Here's a simple version. Warren wants to work out how much money, free cash flow, is left in the business every year, and then he figures out all of the future earnings that he can make from this free cash flow and discounts them to the modern day. That gives him an intrinsic value of the business, and if that intrinsic value is above the share price as it is at the moment, then that company is undervalued and could be a buy opportunity. Now, one really interesting fact is that Warren Buffett does not like to have too much debt in a company. As Muslims, we really like this as well, as we don't want to see any conventional leverage in a company ideally, and the Sharia policies set a maximum threshold of 30% debt to market cap in any case. The other thing Buffett generally doesn't like is derivatives, again in line with the Sharia. So far, so good from the halal side, but now the first wrinkles start appearing. You see, in a recent letter to shareholders, Buffett proudly compared how 2 solid companies he had invested in decades ago have made a ton of profit over the years. One of those was American Express, a credit card company. Of course, Amex would not be permissible for a Muslim investor, so this is the first glimpse we have of how an Islamic portfolio would look very different to a Buffett portfolio. Okay, now let's look at all of Buffett's portfolio. The first thing to note is that Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's company, is actually an insurance company. Conventional insurance is typically not seen as permissible by most Islamic scholars. So the entire business structure through which Warren Buffett invests is actually arguably not permissible. And this is actually very, very significant, as 80% of Berkshire Hathaway's annual revenue is nothing to do with investments. They're coming from Warren's wider business activities. You see, Berkshire is a holding company that makes tons of money and then uses that money plus all the premiums they get from their insurance arm to invest it well and make even more money. So this is where 80% of the action actually is. So no one seems to be talking about this, but Warren Buffett is actually mostly just a high quality businessman, not just a great investor. He only does that for a portion of his time. If we flick through what companies Berkshire has controlling stakes in, there are literally dozens of companies Buffett has fully bought out over the years, mostly focused around what his expertise is: financials, insurance, energy, railways, and heavy industries. Unfortunately, given the heavy financial and insurance flavor here, many of these wholly owned subsidiaries of Berkshire Hathaway would be impermissible to hold. Okay, now let's take a look at Buffett's top 20 public investments. Without even running a quantitative screen on these, I can immediately tell you that 7 out of 20 of these are going to be either questionable or haram entirely. The issue Warren has is he really likes financials. He's got 4 major financial companies in his top 20. And remember, he also used to own a big chunk of Goldman Sachs before as well. So his other big non-compliant area is entertainment outlets. He really seems to like those as well. So we know we need to screen Buffett's picks. We can't invest in them blindly for sure. The other thing Buffett is well known to say is consistently buy an S&P 500 low-cost index fund. He told the CNBC in 2017. I think it's the thing that makes the most sense practically all the time. But the only issue with that advice is that the S&P 500 index is not permissible for Muslims to invest in because there's many impermissible companies in that list. So you can't just do that. We'll explain what you can do as an alternative very shortly. The next thing Buffett says is for retirement, stick 10% of your wealth into bonds. But again, as a Muslim, you can't do that as bonds are an interest yielding instrument. Again, don't worry, we'll give an alternative very shortly. Okay, despite there being a bunch of haram things in the mix here, what Warren Buffett says and does is still mega useful for Muslims. Here's what you should take away from him. Number 1, read all his investment philosophies and basic models of investing and screening businesses. There's nothing haram about that at all, and he's got some great but simple wisdom that he imparts regularly. Number 2, buy Islamic ETFs or use a broker that allows you to screen ETFs for the halal stocks only and buy them individually. Number 3, for that 10% he wants you to stick into bonds, buy sukuk or other sharia-compliant fixed income low-risk investments. Number 4, don't ignore the private markets. Roughly 80% of Berkshire Hathaway's revenue comes from this. He invests in high-quality private businesses and lots of them. Folks, that's it for today. For many of the Islamic alternatives to what Warren Buffett has recommended, we cover them in a lot more detail on Islamic Finance Guru. So get yourself signed up to our mailing list and you'll get a free halal investment checklist that literally lists out all of the major players out there that are Sharia compliant. The link is in the description below. Are there any other non-Muslim investors that you admire and respect that you'd like us to break down like this for Muslims? Let us know in the comments below and we'll get on it. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum.